Well, we are live on having problems here getting live to see, I wanted to go live on X, but X wouldn't let that because there's this fun little thing called Twitter Sphere. And it's premium and I don't really pay for that. I don't want to pay for that. But anyway, guys, I'm here live on YouTube right now. So if you're listening to this, you're gonna get this afterwards. Why? Because look, I'll be honest with you guys, Alex Lorenzo was supposed to come on here last night, but once game 5 of the World Series was forced, obviously the Dodgers won it last night. I took it upon myself to say, you know what, hey, you go and watch your team. I'd expect like the same. Like if I was supposed to be on someone's podcast and like, I don't know, well, Super Bowl Sundays obviously exception. We never do that there. But if it was like Stanley Cup Finals, NBA Finals, even though the NBA Finals aired before this whole podcast thing started, but you get the gist of it. But then I was kind of scrounging for guests, not scrounging for guests. I was just like, I don't want to ask anyone too sudden. And I figured tonight, look, it's Halloween, handed out some candy to some kids. And now watching a god awful football game where I can't believe I thought going into this, I remember Big Rat and I saying, and I thought this the whole time too, where the Jets, it was not a Vegas heist so much, but I thought it was going to be like, this is the one the Jets get. No, the Jets, honestly, where do you go if you're the Jets? I know I got to come on here and have my fun a few days ago because, well, Victory Monday, baby. But now it's like, okay, look, and for Houston too, like, even if they win this game, it's next Sunday I'm looking at for them. It's next Sunday to where I'm going to go and say, hey, what are you made of? What are you truly about? So right at 40 seconds too. So a little halftime entertainment. I might go to the end of the third quarter too. I don't know, or even during the third quarter. I'm not too sure yet. But that being said, though, with the Jets, it's just kind of like this whole feel of like, where do you go? What do you do? How do you get everything across? That's the vibe I'm getting from them. That's the other thing I'm trying to figure out right now too. Streams. I'd like to go on Instagram Live, but I don't really want to do that. So no, thank you. But anyway, we have some football games this week to talk about. We not a lot of news, but I'm going to hop right into it with the football games. Baltimore versus the Denver Broncos. Look, and also I'm going to say this before I get into Baltimore and Denver. If questions do get asked during this stream, if anyone wants to come on, we'll answer it. It's episode 323 for now. If I say something funny and random during the show, that'll be the title later on. So I couldn't come up with anything because I've also not gone live for this podcast in a very, very long time. So that's just me. But anyway, guys, Baltimore Ravens, Denver Broncos. Look, the reason why the spread is at 8 points is because, like Big Rat and I were saying, this is the kind of game where, like tonight, what I thought was going to happen tonight is actually going to happen in this game. You have a very good Baltimore Ravens team coming off of a bad loss to the Denver Broncos. The Baltimore Ravens are also getting healthy because remember last time, no Nate Wiggins, no Marlon Humphrey. Both those guys should be good to go for this game. They are practicing. I believe they both practiced yesterday and today. So when you have both those elements figured into the mix, plus you have a Denver Broncos team, which I don't even need to be frank. Who have the Broncos beaten this year? Like beating the Jets now doesn't really do anything. Oh crap, CJ Stroud's hurt. Besides the Bucks, beat the Raiders, great. You beat the Saints, great. Beat who else have they beaten? The Panthers. It's like great. This is a quality opponent you're playing. This is a team with Super Bowl aspirations. Now, obviously, look, there's Super Bowl aspirations like the the Jets had. This is a team who legitimately can get there and be in New Orleans, a place they were at 12 years ago, for glory. The reason why the spread is so high is because Vegas thinks there's a romping coming. They think they're going to get whooped. Honestly, I do too. What's stopping Baltimore from having a bounce back in this spot? We saw Baltimore do it to the Commanders a couple weeks ago where it was the same day where that guy was going around town knocking people out, but neither here nor there. But anyway, Baltimore should bounce back. Do you remember the game? Do you guys remember this game last year where Detroit went into Baltimore and just got their asses whooped? Same sort of logic. It's the exact same logic. Look, Baltimore, I'm banking more on a Baltimore bounce back than a Denver Bronco proof it game. It's more or less for the Denver Broncos. It's are we sure they're a good game? I've never been high on the Denver Broncos all year long, and I'm going to continue to do that throughout the season as we have someone in here. Welcome. So yeah, I think Denver also covers the spread. No, not Denver. Baltimore covers the spread and wins the game outright because, look, they would do both, obviously. If they're going to cover an 8-point spread, you're going to be winning the game. Las Vegas and Cincinnati. Look, Las Vegas, thank you guys last week. My plus 9.5, I knew it. I just knew it because good teams win, but great teams cover. And that's what the Las Vegas Raiders did last week. This week, though, I don't know why it's at 7. I think they're thinking the same sort of thing. Like, you know how a few weeks ago, Bengals went into MetLife, ironically, like tonight, and took care of the Giants. They're thinking the same sort of thing's going to happen here. I like the Bengals to win because I think the Bengals are the better team. Let's see. Okay, laces were out on this Fairbairn kick, but oof, that takes a shank. But anyway, with this game here, I just don't know if I trust Cincinnati enough. That's my big thing. I don't know if I trust the Bengals enough to truly make an effort to come back, to truly make an effort to blow them out. Because if you look at Cincinnati's, let's look it up. So I do this a lot on the podcast where I look up stuff like this. So I'm just going to look up Cincinnati. I look up things on the fly a lot, but it's a lot different when you're live. Because tonight I said, F it, we're doing it live, which probably the title of the show. So if you look at all their victories this year, okay, they beat the Browns by 7, the Giants by 10, and the Panthers by 10. So essentially they beat 3 bad teams by 7 or more points. So basically the books in Vegas are counting on the Bengals potentially doing the same thing again. You know? So with that being said here, I'm not going to put actual money on it, but if I had to make a pick, I would say Vegas covers, but the Bengals win the game. Fair? I think so. As the Jets have not even Aaron Rodgers, dude. Devontae Adams, low-key, is cooked. Tennessee versus New England. Look, this game, to me, because obviously if you're watching this, you know me, you know who I am, you know I'm a Pats fan. Here's where things get interesting and spicy. Tennessee's minus 3.5 in this game. Tennessee's coming off of a whomping against the Detroit Lions, 52-14. Meanwhile, the Patriots beat the Jets at Gillette Stadium, getting their first victory at Gillette Stadium since the Mac Jones game against Josh Allen last year. So something's got to give. But also, the last time the Patriots were in Tennessee, they got their butts whooped. Obviously, that was Tom Brady. And, oh, good. This is just, when you watch the Jets, it's almost like, what are you doing? It's like literally Aaron Rodgers is out here ruining his legacy. Like, I know he already does and he's already this, but like, I'm going to say this now, like, I don't know what to think anymore, man. It's not even like that Derek Stingley's locking him up. He's just not like, bro, if you are supposed to be the receiver, you have to make contested catches like that. This is the third down, guys, with about, I think, 14 seconds left. No, 12 seconds left. Like, what are you doing, dude? It's pathetic. It's pathetic. I don't know what to think. Obviously, I love seeing it. Because, like, look, I'm in a spread pool. Won it last week. I won 11-5. Would have gone 12-4 if Chicago hadn't, Tyreek Stevenson actually had a pair of eyes. But neither here nor there. And I thought, hey, so in that pool, I took the Jets to cover tonight. That was a bad mistake on my part. But going back to this game, so you have a Tennessee team who's just bad. You have a New England team who's bad, but we don't know if Drake May is going to be playing or not. I'm going to say this too. Look, I said this on Monday night, and I'll say this again. It's the same expression that McGarvin said before the season started. We're going to root for wins. We're going to accept the losses, and we'll worry about where we're drafting come January. So that's what I'm going to do. I think this is a game the Patriots get. They move to 3-6 on the year before going into Chicago next Sunday to take on the Bears, just because they are the better team. I think they're the more disciplined team. Quarterback play is a little more trustworthy. Look, the Titans they're a little banged up from what I've been seeing on the injury reports. So, it's just one of those things. It's one of those things when I look at it. Because with the Patriots too, look, after this game, there's probably going to be 3 or 4 in a row they lose because you play the Bears, the Rams, who are looking really good all of a sudden, and the Miami Dolphins, who Tua has never lost to New England in his career. So even if they get this game at 3-6, they go to 3-9 going into December, is what it is. So that's where I think they get this game. But at the same time, too, I wouldn't be shocked to see the Titans win. Like, when I say that, I'm not out here confident being like, yeah, Patriots are going to win. They're going to, just completely whoop their ass. No, I'm not confident in saying that. Basically, what I'm saying is I'm going to root for my football team to win this game. I'm also making rips for this game, so that's just another thing too, because I like to make them like have some sort of like make something at home. My wife and I like to do it while we're cooking, like while we're eating. I like to cook something too. So I think this week we're gonna do ribs. Next week I think we're gonna. There's a place near us that does deep dish pizza. So you know what? Hey, we're playing Chicago, so why not, right? But yeah. So ultimately with this game too, I think it's just gonna come down to which offense doesn't turn the ball over as much. Whoever loses the turnover battle is gonna win the game. Fair as day. Fair. That's the fairest analysis I can make. Because with New England, like, look, New England looks good. They looked good last week, but then again, they're both. These are two rebuilding teams. This is truly just a disgusting matchup. But hey, I love my football team, so I'm not gonna watch it. Carolina versus New Orleans. Look, Carolina's +7 in this game. I don't know if I trust the number because NFC South football is super unpredictable, but the Saints gotta get one. They gotta look competent at some point. It literally is a battle of who do you want to be more competent than the others. And in the case of this game, I trust the Saints more than I trust the Panthers, even though the Saints haven't won a football game since September. I think they start November off on the right foot. A number I like here is that over a 43.5, by the way. I know they can't score, but you seriously can't tell me that, look, with how New Orleans has looked, allowing 20 points per game in, like, I believe all of their games after the Philadelphia game, I think they basically just allowed 20 points every game. And then you have the Panthers, who, look, they're bad, but they're signs of life. Like, signs of life in the sense of, I don't know. Like I said on Monday, I like Xavier Legette. What else do you want me to say? The Panthers just like, look, I like Dave Canales as head coach. I think he's the right person to develop the team. But at the same time, too, it's unpredictability within ownership. And then you have a Saints team where they kind of they drunkenly stumbled upon to being bad. And it's kind of a blessing in disguise with them. Because you don't have now. I'm just gonna push this back. So look, you're not getting like headroom. Basically, with the Saints, it's one of those things now where you can kind of go into this offseason knowing, hey, we're not going to be good. We should not try to be competitive. We can keep some guys around, but you know what? At the same time, too, you got to make some moves. I think, look, you're going to probably lose some guys to retirement, so kind of enjoy it for what it is. And then with the Panthers, it's just, look, you have more pain, and then more pain leads to more pain, and I don't see this team being anywhere decent until 2026 unless they miraculously turn it around, but we just don't know that. But ultimately, going back to this game, because of all those reasons I just stated, this is a game I think the Saints get. This is the game they get. I don't trust the 7 number at all. I don't. Divisional football 2, though, tells you to take the underdog on the spread, but I do think that New Orleans gets this game. It's not a get-right game. It's just the same thing as Tennessee and New England. Atlanta versus Dallas. Look, 51.5 is it's a fun number, but I would avoid it just because I have a rule in the NFL. If an over-under goes over 50, either take the under or avoid, because basically you're counting on a shootout. And I know Dallas has looked bad. I know that to be the case. But we don't know what we're going to get with Atlanta. This is essentially a must-win game for the Dallas Cowboys. And look, I don't know if they're going to win, but they're definitely going to put up a fight. It's definitely going to be an exciting game of football. I think that's the one thing that we can all say and agree upon. This game is going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. And well, if you're watching it, you're watching it. But ultimately, for as much as I want to go Atlanta, I think I have to go Dallas. This is a desperation spot for the Cowboys. I know the Cowboys are the weaker team, but this is a spot where Dallas, your season is essentially on the line. Jesus Christ. It's like, I'm going on side tangents because showing halftime, they're showing the Malachi Corley play, the touchdown that was called back. I did not realize that he had not basically dropped the ball before entering the end zone until, like, I never saw like what actually happened until now. And it's just the Jets keep jetting. Like, even the stats too, like, good. Like, oh, if you went to this game, like, imagine telling all the Yankee fans that lost last night, hey, your team just lost the World Series. Now you get to watch the Jets. But no, going back to Atlanta versus Dallas. Look, this is the game the Cowboys have to have. That's what it comes down to. The Cowboys have to have this game. Atlanta looks like the best team in the NFC South, but they're going to have a couple hiccups. I think they're going to lose some games that they have no business losing. Kind of like how Seattle just went in there and beat them silly 2 weeks ago, 34-14. I can see the exact same thing happening here, not to the same degree, but you're seriously telling me that Dallas is going to lose, I think, 3? They're going to lose 3 in a row? I wouldn't bank on that. look, Detroit, they look bad. They looked okay against San Francisco. So if you can look okay, decent, like what you did against San Francisco against Atlanta, you're going to bring it to them. And I think that's where the keys to victory come from. So I'm taking Dallas on the hope of a bounce back from the Cowboys, which is asking for a lot, and I'm scared to do it. Buffalo versus Miami. Buffalo is -6. I'm taking Miami to cover the spread. I have trust issues. When divisional opponents have high spreads, you take the underdog. But here's the other thing too with this game. This is the Miami Dolphins season. Miami lost a heartbreaker last week to the Atlanta Falcons, the Arizona Cardinals. We're getting our birds mixed up here. They lost to the Arizona Cardinals. They're going up to Buffalo to play the Bills. The Bills have looked great. The Bills are rolling. They're rocking and rolling ever since that crappy game they had in Houston about a month ago. Ever since then, they beat the Jets. They beat the Titans. Last week, they took care of the Seattle Seahawks. This week, you got the Dolphins coming to town. This is a game, if you're the Dolphins, you have to have. This isn't a whole game where it's like, hey, you could win, or if you do this. No, if you do this, you go to 2-6. That's essentially your season. 2-6 essentially equates to you have to go a minimum worst case scenario. 2-6 is 8. 8, 9 is 17. You have to go like 8-1 down the stretch just to have a chance to sniff the playoffs. You do this, you will leave yourself for a few weeks, because I know after this, the Miami Dolphins schedule gets a lot easier. They have the Raiders coming up. They do have the Rams on Monday Night Football, but after that, they have the Raiders, they have the Patriots, still have to play the Jets twice. So there's a lot of games with the Dolphins that they can win, and if they can get a win like this one in Orchard Park, who knows? Sky's the limit. But ultimately, though, I am going to go Buffalo to win, but I do think Miami keeps it close. I also wouldn't be shocked to see Miami win this game outright. But like I said, with that being said, don't know the full scope of it. I'm not like putting money. I wouldn't bet my hard dollar on this game. I'm going to be honest with you, I wouldn't. I'm also going to be honest with you too in this sense. I still don't know the parlays I post every week, which we have not won yet. I'm going to be honest with you there too. Last week, I was going to do 2 teams. I decided I'm going to throw in a third because of the Call of Duty factor. That cost me. My original one was just going to be Buffalo moneyline and San Francisco -4.5. Those 2 would have banged. I got greedy and added them. I got greedy and added the Dolphins -2.5. I got greedy. So this week I'm not doing that. We're going to leave it as is. And I still don't know where exactly I want to go with parlays. I still don't. I'm just like I'm struggling with it a bit. I might do that New Orleans Carolina over. I don't know yet. I like doing overs because I'd rather bet on points than bet on a crappy game happening. I do unders in the CFL all the time because look, you can kind of sniff it out and tell. But for this one, I just don't know. Cleveland versus Los Angeles. For as fun as the Cleveland Browns story has been, I gotta go Rams on this. Not Rams, Chargers. I'll be honest with you guys. I went to bed at like 1:30 last night, and I was up at 7 o'clock this morning. So, yeah, you know what? After this, I'm gonna upload it. I'm gonna get the audio uploaded, and then we're gonna go to bed. Even if because this game's just terrible, I feel like we can watch till the end of it. But yeah, Cleveland versus the Los Angeles Chargers. It was fun what Cleveland did last week. Could they do it again? Potentially. But at the same time, too, this Charger defense has just been letting everyone know who the hell they are. This Charger defense has looked really good, 13 points per game. So I do think that they get. What the hell am I watching with this Ninja Turtle? God. Oh, God, it's terrible. But yeah, Jordan Sweet, Chargers, just I like Cleveland. I like what they're doing. It's just I can't not. I need to see it before. I would rather be wrong taking the Chargers than be right picking the Browns. Prove me wrong, Brownies. Prove me wrong. Also, last week I was on them to cover the spread and they won outright too. So there's that as well. New York Giants versus the Washington Commanders. You know what they say? Daniel Jones is not a good quarterback. People need to understand that. Like, I know people do. Like, look, it's a brand. Big Rat and I've had a lot of fun doing the Danny Adams and Prime podcasts. Don't get me wrong. We've enjoyed it. We've appreciated it. We've loved it. But the Giants are a team in turmoil. They've got nothing on offense besides Malik Neighbors. Their offensive line It's not good. But the defense is fine, though. So there's one of those things where they can get the basically the Giants need to do in next year's draft what the Patriots did this year. Just take a load of offensive players, get your quarterback, get another receiver, get some offensive line, get some younger offensive line help instead of signing mediocre vets. And you know what? You can start to build towards the future. I also wouldn't fire or clean house or anything like that because, look, you have to give those teams a second chance. Cool. This game, though, look, short and simple. Hail to the Commanders. They got the win last week, but at the same time, too, this is one too where the Giants could potentially pull it out. I just don't, like I said, I need to see it before I believe it because the Giants' only wins this year was Seattle in Seattle because Daniel Jones away from MetLife is a lot better of a quarterback than Daniel Jones in MetLife. Look it up. And they beat the Cleveland Browns when the Cleveland Browns were just terrible. They also won when they were I think it was +6 and +7. So if they're ever big favorites, if they're big dogs like that, again, that's when they start barking. And it's also in the 1 or 4 o'clock window. But this one at +4, I'm going to lean towards the Commanders. Philadelphia Eagles, Jacksonville Jaguars. Why the hell should you pick the Jacksonville Jaguars? You shouldn't. No, this is a game the Eagles should have. This is the kind of game where if the Eagles are a for real serious football team, they win and they win handedly. This game was originally supposed to be Sunday Night Football. Thank God it got flexed out. I know next week Detroit, Houston ain't going anywhere, but I'll say this right now. 2 weeks from now, Grey Cup Sunday is supposed to be Colts and Jets. You got to get that game out of there. You can't basically after tonight, you can't have Aaron Rodgers be on primetime again. You can't have this Jets team on primetime again, let alone Aaron Rodgers. Like, look, and also here's the other thing too. In the middle of November, if there's still 2 wins, because let's see, between now and that game, they play next week against the. Who do they play next week? I think they play the Cardinals next week. Yeah, they play the Cardinals next week. Even if they're 3-7 or 4-6, you can't have a bad team on primetime. You can't. Like, what are you telling your audience if you're keeping this team on? You're telling them that we don't care. We're like, we know we'll watch, but at the same time, too, there's gonna be other football on that night that's better watching. And I'd rather watch whatever the Grey Cup is over the Jets Colts game. So NFL, do your job and flex out. But ultimately, though, going back to this game, like I said, it was flexed out originally. I said that too, just because of how bad Jacksonville had looked. I understand why it was put in, just because like Philadelphia and everything like that. Philadelphia's also got Dallas next Sunday as well, I believe, in Dallas. But with this game, oh, good Lord, I'm not putting on a good show for you guys. If you are the Dallas Cowboys, I'm off the rails right now. Thank God no one's watching this. If you're the Philadelphia Eagles, this is like what you did 2 weeks ago against the New York Jets. You go into the game, you win it comfortably. You make it uncomfortable. You cover 7.5 points against the Jags. Plain and simple. Arizona Cardinals, Chicago Bears. The Bears are winless away from Soldier Field. The Cardinals are frisky. The Cardinals are going to lose a couple games down. The Cardinals are going to be that team that, they need to do X, they need to do Y in order to make the playoffs, and they'll miss out. That's going to be the Cardinals this year. The Cardinals will finish 8-9, 9-8, or even 7-10. They're 4-4 right now, so that basically means if they're 8-9, they go 4-5 down the stretch. For Cardinal fans, I think that's an accomplishment. So basically, it's like foreshadowing. So say if next year the Patriots are where if the Patriots are, if they are at 4-4 at this point of the season next year, I'll be happy. That's better than 2-6. It's 2 more wins and 2 less losses. Not one win a month. But with everything, you have this game here where the Bears need this game, but I just don't want to bet on the Bears when they're away from home. I don't want to do that. Next week's the week to take the Bears. Not this game. Not here, not now. Yeah. 16 yards of field offense. Good Lord. Oh my God. No, this is a game where you rely on your gut. Over 44.5 is a frisky bet. It's a fun, frisky bet. I'm going to look and see the Bears, because the Bears, here's the other thing too with the Bears. They only scored 12 points last week until the end of the game. Let's go here. Yeah, 15. They only scored 15 points. Prior to that, They put up 35, they put up 36, they put up 24, 16, 13, and 24. Bears and Cardinals, welcome to the fun. I think that's the play. I don't Saints Panthers. I'm asking the Carolina Panthers. I'm asking a mediocre game to be exciting, and I'd rather not do that. Let's let Arizona and Chicago get exciting. 44.5. I think you're in the video. But ultimately, I'm going to go with the Cardinals to win this game outright. Seattle versus the LA Rams. Look, like I was saying earlier, I think the Rams are the team that's getting hot at the right time. Seattle's going to have these games where they're up, they're down, they're sideways, they're left, right, center. Oh my God. Like I said, we're going off the rails. But with a game like this, Sean McVay always has his way too. He has his way with Pete Carroll, and I think that continues just because Seattle too. But here's where I think it's going to get spicy. You know what? Actually, I'm going to scrap. Let's rewind. If you remember what happened last week, Seattle got embarrassed at home, and I don't think that happens again. I was about to say the Rams, but no. I think this is the game the Seahawks get. I think it's the game they get. They get to stay afloat, and then they lose their next game. You know, it's like one of those things. It's like there's levels to this. There's levels to this, and then there's levels to everything else that I think the Seattle Seahawks are capable of. Same thing with the Rams. The Rams have looked good, but I just would rather bet my money on the Seahawks. I'd rather put my money on the Seahawks bouncing back as opposed to the Rams staying hot again, especially if Puka Nacua doesn't play in this game. You know, that's where you got to look at it. The Green Bay Packers and the Detroit Lions. This right here is a game. It's interesting. I want to go Green Bay because I think that there's a chance that Detroit has a down game. But then also, too, I want to go Detroit because they've been incredibly fuego. You know? They've looked really good. I'm also going to pull the banner off for a second because I just want to double check something. So, yeah, I'm editing on the fly. Oh, there it is. Okay, I don't know what happened there, but boom. We're gonna save it, and then there you go. We're back. Banner's back up and live. But you know, both teams have something to show and prove. Green Bay is going into the bye, but this game right here, I'm only saying Green Bay has something to prove because we know what Detroit is. Detroit right now is the best team in the NFC. Detroit is a very good football team. I think there's a chance that the Detroit Lions are playing very good football, you know, come December and January. But with this game here, the Green Bay, oh my God, Aaron Rodgers is terrible. But with this game here, look, Detroit, I think more than anything, Detroit's due for a loss. But at the same time, too, if Houston escapes this game at 7-0, or if it's like 10-7, Houston's got a huge game next week against the Detroit Lions Sunday Night Football. It's a game I've had circled since May. So ultimately, I think they both go into this with losses because, look, I have the Jets to cover the spread tonight. Let's see what Griffin picked in his CBS pool that he's in. I have the Packers at +3.5. So what I ultimately think is the Packers cover, but I'll give the win to the Lions. I think the Lions squeak one out to where everyone's like, oh, are they going to beat Houston next week? And then we find out next week what happens because Houston still needs a signature win on the year, in my opinion, to be a Super Bowl contender. But no, this is a game where if you have a chill 4 o'clock window, watch it because the 4 o'clock windows this week is Philadelphia, Jacksonville, Arizona, Chicago, Seattle, LA. Is it really only? I hate when the NFL does this. When they only put 4 games in the 1 o'clock window. It's like, guys, what are we doing? You know, what are we doing? Why are there only 4 games in the 4 o'clock window? Always do a 7-5 split. I think you should at least have that because too the 405. No one pays attention to that. People pay attention to 425, and that's when this game is. So after the Patriots play, win or lose, that's what I'll have on. I'll probably be down in this very basement with everything else watching this game. And yeah, so you have one game at 4 o'clock. You have two, you have three, you have four as the ticker goes by, and I forget where I'm at. And now we jump to Sunday Night Football. I really want to say Vikings here because they're in a tailspin right now and they got to get out of it. But something that Randy Orton-esque voice inside my head is telling me that the Colts get one. And the Colts kind of like get that like win. You also remember this game too. 2 years ago, this is the game that the Colts had a 33-0 lead, lost 36-33, but they covered the 3.5. So bravo Colts for that. But ultimately, this game, like I think the Vikings get the win, but the Colts keep it close. I think that's what I think happens. So I think that they cover the 5, but at the end of the day, the Vikings, it's more of a Viking get right spot. Make sense? And last but not least, you have Tampa Bay and Kansas City Monday Night Football. I'm going to say the exact same things I said with Sunday Night Football. Buccaneers cover the number, but the Chiefs get the win. The Chiefs get the win and go to improved 8-0 on the year. I think the Chiefs are going to lose a game no one sees coming. This is a game right here that has potential for them to lose, but I think that 8.5 is too big of a number for them to cover because Kansas City Chiefs don't do well with big spreads. Okay, Garrett Wilson. I see you. Big boy catch. But yeah, that's NFL Week 9. Anyway, now we're going to talk about the CFL. It's the first time I get to do this because it's my show and I'm the only one here. And we're doing a quick, just half an hour show. So tomorrow, if you're in the car, if you're at the office, listen and follow along. East Semi Final, I'll be boots on ground for this game. This will be my last time at BMO Field this season as the Argos. If they were to win this game, they have to go to Montreal to play the Alouettes in the East Final. And then in 2 weeks is Vancouver for the Grey Cup. I unfortunately am not making the trip to Vancouver for the Grey Cup, but I'll be covering it from my couch, eating chili. I'm going Toronto fully and full-heartedly with this one because at the end of the day, banks it in. Toronto is the more established team, and Toronto is the more veteran sound team. I know, look, Ottawa won last week at the buzzer, and I know that Toronto lost, but 90% Toronto was not playing a lot of their first stringers. A lot of their first stringers took the night off. Chad Kelly didn't play. Wynton McManus didn't play, among others. Here's the other thing too with this game. Toronto knows what's at stake, and Toronto has a redemption arc story that they are looking to fill. The Ottawa Redblacks are a team that is young. They beat Toronto in September 7th, handedly in Ottawa. But also, the Ottawa Redblacks have not won a game in Toronto since, I think it was 2018, ironically, the last time they went to the playoffs. 18 or 19. You can misquote me on that. But this is also the first time these two teams met in the playoffs since 1990 when they were the Rough Riders. And Pinball Clemens was MOP. For a game like this, I'm leaning Toronto. The spread's at 6.5. I just put the numbers down there because I don't want to focus on betting lines for these games. I just want to focus more on the games themselves because playoff football is just unpredictable. It's one game, one moment, one opportunity. Same Eminem song. Are you going to capture? Or are you just going to let it slip? And then you have a team like Ottawa. They're looking for their own redemption story in the fact that they've been mediocre since 2019. 2019, they haven't been good. 2020, obviously, there was no football played because of COVID. 21, they played a partial season. 22, they played a full season. And then 23, they went 4-14. Meanwhile, Toronto went 16-2 last year, and we all know what happened. I think that weighs more on Toronto is the fact that last year they got to the playoffs and they were embarrassed at home by the Montreal Alouettes. Meanwhile, Ottawa is a team, they're on the rise, but the CFL is such a year-to-year league that, look, this year, Ottawa had their flashes too. And the Toronto team that we saw them play 2 weeks ago, you got to go watch my reel or you can watch the highlights from that game. It was 38-31 final, but it was 28-0 at one point. Toronto is a team that they are going to put their foot on the gas and they are not going to let up. They're going to go full balls to the wall. They're going to make sure that they get the job done. They're going to do what it takes to get the win. And so I think next Saturday afternoon in La Belle Province at Molson Stadium, we get a rematch. We get the trilogy bout, 2022, 2023, 2024, Argonauts, Alouettes from Montreal. The West semifinal is basically the East semifinal, but in reverse. What do I mean by that? You have a Saskatchewan Roughrider team who has not been in the playoffs since 2021 under first-year head coach Corey Mace versus a BC Lions team that, look, all season long, it was expected they were going to get there. It was, not a matter of if, it was a matter of when. They're hosting the Grey Cup in 2 weeks in their own building with the Jonas Brothers at halftime. Got to plug it, got to do it. Got to rep the brand. But it's in reverse considering that you have a Saskatchewan team looking to have their own art, their own redemption story, their own like, hey, we're here, we're established, we've got a lot of good players. But Saskatchewan had a season where they started off hot, but they've really cooled down, and then they've kind of like had some up and down games throughout the last couple months, for the last few weeks of the season. What do I mean by that? It's like the honeymoon phase. At first, everything's great, everything's sound, everything's sweet and swell and prosperous. But then you lose a couple of bad football games, and then immediately everyone's saying, oh, what's the coach doing? What's Corey Mace doing? What's up with him? To where you get all that talk because you were so led on by good expectations that when bad stuff happens, you just don't want to believe it's happening, or you don't want to just, how could this be us? Woe is me mentality. Meanwhile, the BC Lions, it's just been a roller coaster of a year. They started their season in Toronto with a loss. Then they won some games. Then they barely won some games. And then they lost some games really badly. The last time these two teams played, Saskatchewan wiped the floor with them. 38-9, I think. It was 3 weeks ago. But at the end of the day, I'm going to go with the away team on this one. I'm going to go with the BC Lions because with both games, I'm going with experience over just the overall, newness of the groups. Saskatchewan's a team that I think will be there because with the West Division, it's a little more easy to read because here's what you have with the West for 2025. You have BC who will be there. You have Calgary, which we don't know what we're going to get. You have an Edmonton team looking to reestablish themselves. And lastly, we have a Winnipeg Blue Bomber team who, look, they are hosting the West Final once again, but we don't know what we're going to get from them. They're an aging team. They're getting old. So we don't know exactly, how is this going to play out for the Bombers. So this is the kind of season 2 where Saskatchewan does lose this game. You end up just hanging your hats up high and saying to yourself, we did what we could. We're going to learn from this, and we're going to move on to next season. I have the same thing with Ottawa, but I just think that the Chad Kelly redemption arc story and the Toronto Argonauts story as a whole for redemption is just, it's the more compelling story at the moment, also too because the 2 games I said, which would then be Montreal, Toronto, and BC Winnipeg, those are the 2 games right there of the 4 teams that truly encapsulate what could be a great Grey Cup. I'm not discrediting anything to do with Ottawa or Saskatchewan. No, I'm not. I'm just saying I don't think they're ready yet. I don't know how many of you watch Hell's Kitchen, but it's like when Gordon Ramsay says, I look at you, you're not ready to be my head chef yet. That's how I look at Ottawa and Saskatchewan. I like what they're doing. They have some solid pieces in place, but you're not ready to run with the big dogs yet. And also to the fact, like I said, it's been roller coaster. The one team out of the 4 playing this weekend that I honestly have the most faith in is the Toronto Argonauts. And I don't just say that just because I have close ties with the team. I cover the team, and I've become a bit of a fan of the team. I say that because from what I saw from them that game 2 weeks ago, really shines through of this is a team that gets unstoppable. You're not stopping them. This is a team that if they play all their cards right, they're going to become the 19-time Grey Cup champions in just a couple weeks. So buckle up, folks, because if you like Canadian football, or if you're American, you want to watch it, CBS Sports Network, you're in for a great weekend of football. But anyway, guys, I'm Griff. That's just been me. Next week, though, we have 2 banger shows coming. We got David Morisuti and maybe Frank Stanishi for CFL. Squad Goals is back next Thursday night. Sophie McGarvin and I right here for an all brand new YWC football talk. Enjoy the weekend of football, everybody.